last week we worked on more about like when to go talk, who to go talk to, and the process, procedures, and all that stuff. And it's too much detail for the average person. Today, this presentation is more about how do you go talk to elected officials? What is the right way to do it? How to be how to be the most effective you can be when we have conversations with elected officials. And a lot of these things may seem are probably just common sense, but they probably need to be said. And some of the things maybe are counterintuitive. So basically, we're going to cover three areas. Meetings in the office. These are normally scheduled meetings, either during legislative times or outside of legislative times. It doesn't matter. The second one is committee testimony. And the third one is external communications and how to maximize external communications for maximum effect. And caveat, as always, these are my personal opinions. A lot of the stuff in here is from my staff, and they've collected best practices and other things from other staff, and definitely put in here things that annoy staff, and we'll talk about that. And these are my recommendations, so take it for whatever it's worth. Okay. First, meetings in office. This is the most common type. This is the most important type of meeting that we're going to have, because this is where you have the opportunity to meet one-on-one with staff, with people who may or may not change their minds based on what you say. Okay, so before we go on to the details, so you should already, before you have these meetings, before you go into this process, you should already have an idea of the legislative timing and the process, meaning that you know whether or not there's a bill, where the bill is, and all these other stuff, who to meet with. And really, these should be all these things on here. I'm not going to read through everything. These should have been done by the organizer. And if you don't know the answer to these questions, then either you need to check with your organizer, or you are the organizer and you didn't figure this stuff out before. So if you can't answer these questions before having the meeting, we need to talk. So and again, all these tips, we try to make these tips as generic as possible, to make sure that you can use it for Congress, you can use it for city council, you can use it for the state legislature, you can use it in pretty much any state you want. All of these tips basically apply across the board. Now, there are some very specific things that are very specific to the Texas legislature, because that's what I know. And so I'll let you know when those things are true. All right. So the first thing that you have to know is you have to be aware of the timing of the meeting. And this is really important because, again, if you go into a meeting and you don't know what's going on around the meeting, then it's hard to make an ask. It's hard to ask the elected official to do something for you. Okay. So again, overall timing issues should be addressed by the organization, but even if you're not the organizer, you should be aware of what is going on. So there's a big difference between if you're meeting during the session, when the legislative session is going on or not going on. During the session, especially in the Texas legislature, there are periods that are very relaxed. At the beginning, the first 60 days there's nothing going on. We're not in Austin most of the time, and everyone's just having parties and trying to get to know each other, trying to have their bills drafted and do other things. But once things start rolling along, whether it's Congress, whether it's the Texas legislature, once you get to the point where everybody's frantic, you may not want to have meetings during those times, because they're not going to pay attention. And even outside of the legislative session, you have to be aware of the timing issues. Okay, members may be taking family vacations. There'll be a lot less staff during those times, and most importantly, if you meet outside of the session, almost certainly your meetings will be in the district. And that's fine if you're from Houston, which is not a big deal. But if you want to meet with somebody who lives, let's say, in West Texas, well, you're going to have to make a trip to West Texas, and you have to be aware of that. So especially if if your issue is around legislation, so like as example, SB 147 alien land laws, that was about legislation. And before you have meetings, and we had to go over this again and again during our town halls, is what's going on with the bill right now, because what you're asking for is different depending on what the posture of the bill is. So if the bill has not done, nothing's happened, it's been filed, but it's not in any committee, it's not going anywhere, there's nothing to ask for. Just hey, you say we just want to be aware of it. But if the bill is about to be on the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate, the ask is very different. Okay, so you have to understand where it is in the process. You have to understand there's some things that's too early to ask for. There's some things that are too late to ask for. We don't have time. I don't have time in this presentation to talk about that. But the organizers, again, the organizers should know these things, and you should debrief anyone who is having a meeting that basically that day. Like you should know where it is right there and then at the time of the meeting. Okay. The reminder, this is from my staff, please address issues as early as possible. If you can have meetings outside of the legislation, outside of the session, if you can have meetings during the in-between times, please do so. Waiting till the bill was already about to come to the floor, that's what happened in a lot of the other states, that we didn't find out about the bill and the community wasn't aware of it, and we couldn't do anything about it because it's heading to the floor in 3 days. There's not a lot we can do. All right, we can only make so many phone calls in that time, and it is just don't wait. All right. So this is a question that actually my staff brought up multiple times. Is there's a lot of questions about, should you try to schedule an appointment or do you just walk in? And there's benefit to dangers of both. Scheduling is obviously a lot safer, especially if you're traveling far. It's like 2.5 hours to Austin from Houston, but other people may be driving like 5 and 6 hours in Texas. If you're going to DC, if you're going to go talk to Congress, I think you definitely want to schedule. They're very, very strict about that. And again, if you're making a flight out to DC and you don't know if you're going to actually be able to meet with them, that may not be a good use of your time, right? But sometimes a walk-in may be necessary. And I've seen people do this all the time, that there is a member that you're trying to talk to and they keep avoiding the meeting. And sometimes what you have to do is just sit in their office and wait till they'll come in and say, hey, can I have 5 minutes? And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but a lot of times people, they don't want to be rude to you, so they say, okay, fine, 5 minutes, let's go, right? Sometimes you don't have a choice but to sit there and wait patiently and wait for them to come in. So, and again, if this is a big group, let's say this is about alien land laws, and there might be an overarching organization, but the organization may be telling you and your group, you're responsible for scheduling, right? Because we don't know what your schedule is. You have to go schedule it with a staff member. Now, if that's your job, if you have to schedule, this is again something from my staff. Be absolutely crystal clear with your staff, with the staff about the meeting. Okay, be very clear about what the topic areas are. If you have some difficult questions, how long you expect the meeting, how many people are coming. Staff will always adjust and prepare, but surprises are always bad. Okay, if you can, send background information. That means like if it's about, let's say, alien land laws, send articles, clip articles about it in the New York Times, whatever it is, Texas Tribune. Find articles that are relevant to them and send it to them ahead of time. Say, hey, this is some of the news articles about it. This is some issues. Here's a paper written by Dr. Pei about it. Here, and more information is always better. Okay, if you have hard questions that you're going to ask, send the questions ahead of time, especially if it's something that requires research from the office. Again, create as few surprises as possible. And we're going to talk about this again and again. Annoying people don't make friends. And the easiest way to annoy, especially staff, is to surprise them. Okay, because it makes them look bad. It makes them look bad that they were surprised that their bosses tell them that, hey, it's your job to make sure we know everything before we have these meetings. Okay. Make sure to be on time. Get there early. During the legislative session, if you come in late, if you miss your meeting window by like 5 minutes, we're on to the next meeting, right? Because the other group got here early, and we're going to go ahead and just take them first instead of making them wait. So we've had people who, they were there 10 minutes late and they had to sit there an extra hour and a half and waiting for us to get through some other meetings first. Make sure staff has your correct contact information. Things change all the time. A member may get stuck in a hearing, maybe stuck in another meeting. Their meeting's running long. There's some kind of family emergency. They absolutely want to call you and tell you, hey, something's gone on. We're going to move your time to this time. If they don't have your information, they can't do that. Please, this is actually a huge pro tip. Please let staff know in advance that there are going to be constituents there. This is a great way to make sure you get a meeting. The most important thing to an elected official, and people won't admit to this, is getting reelected. And, constituents, people who live in the district, people who might vote for them, they want to make sure that they're happy and they say nice things when they go back to the community. So make sure let staff know. By the way, we're bringing constituents, and if you know their names, send it out there. Try to bring these additional guests if possible. Again, constituents from the home community, campaign volunteers, anyone who's a donor, anyone who's a big political supporter. And of course, if you have government officials that are coming from the local community, your chances of actually getting the meeting and making sure that that's an important meeting for that elected official, that raises the importance of that meeting. Okay. Scheduling big groups. This is from my staff. Please do not. It is a huge pain. Groups exceeding 10 people is way too big. And the only exception is if it's just a bunch of kids who just want a picture, that's great. If it's just a big group and they just want one quick picture, no problem. But if they want to sit down and talk, and they want to wait in the office, it becomes very, very difficult. Most offices, again, even in Congress, if you've ever been to Congress, their office space is quite small, and our office space in the legislature in the Capitol building is quite small. Even the biggest offices are small. And what I always recommend is no more than 6 people. Okay. In fact, if you want to have a serious conversation, like about 3 or 4 is probably where you want to be, right? Because otherwise it becomes overwhelming. If you have more people than chairs in the room, and this is situation specific. If you have more people than chairs, somebody just say, hey, I need to take a restroom break and just stay outside, right? If you don't need to be in there, don't be in there. So usually, and the reason I say there are more people than chairs is because most rooms, they're set up for the maximum that people feel comfortable of having in their room. So if there are 6 chairs, that room is meant for 6 people, right? If there are too many people, go by outside, take a break. It's more important that the meeting go well, right? And having more people in the room does not equal having more voice. This is from my staff. Do not break large groups into separate meetings. Like I've seen people try to do that before. One group wants to meet with staff, one group wants to meet with me. Please don't do that. It doesn't help you, and it's very annoying, and you're just going to make staff mad. And again, this is also from my staff. Determine who the best attendees are for each meeting, and that is, don't just have someone to fill space. Make sure that the people who are in that meeting actually need to be there and that they're actually going to represent the group well. And this is one of my hints. Put constituents closest to the official. And this is just a little pro tip. Make sure that constituents are introduced first. Set them right next to the official so that it's harder to wiggle away. Remember, this is from me and my staff. Chaos distracts from the message. And I've seen this time and time again. When I have meetings, I try to be very attentive. I try to listen very carefully. But if there's like 12 people in the room and two or three people keep coughing and somebody's playing with their phone and somebody's doing this and somebody spills their water, it becomes all we're doing is just managing a circus then. And staff feels obligated to make sure that everyone's taken care of, and that puts a lot of strain on them. And nobody's focused on the conversation. Okay. Now, here's a big thing. This is actually from me, not just my staff. One of the issues that we come up with is that a lot of times people say, "Oh, I don't want to meet with staff. I only want to meet with the elected official." And I say that's actually really bad practice. In fact, if you note at the bottom, I prefer talking to staff. Even in the legislature, as a member, I prefer talking to staff. Because and then here's some of the reasons. I mean, like some officials will just simply never have time to meet. All right, if during the session you want to meet with Greg Bonin, who is the chair of appropriations, good luck. Right? It's almost impossible because he's so busy. He has so many things going on. If you want to meet with the speaker, very difficult. And some offices, especially congressional offices, and depending who the member, they want you to meet with their staff first. They want staff to vet you to make sure that you're not a crazy person and to have basically do research on you and on your issue before they allocate time for you to meet with them. So use that. And one of the reasons that I often like to talk to staff is sometimes staff is just better than the elected official. A lot of staff who have been working at the Capitol for like 20, 30 years have way more experience on these issues than the elected official who's only been in office maybe 4 or 5 years. Staff are the point of contacts. They are the policy advisors. Why wouldn't you talk to the policy advisor who's going to make the recommendation to the elected official on your topic? A lot of times staff are the experts. They are the absolute experts in that field. And very few people, even the elected official, have more experience or more knowledge. The staff has more time, and for sure, staff generally are more patient. And there was a tons of times, even as an elected official, where I'm talking to another elected official, and they're like, "Oh, okay, come on, I gotta go," and they're just not really listening. But staff, it's their job. It's their job to listen. It's their job to take the time, and they're going to listen. And most importantly of all, and this is a huge one, especially if it's an issue where it's not like a hot topic. It's not abortion. It's not guns, but it's a topic that maybe people aren't that familiar with. Having a staff advocate can be the absolute best thing in the world. If you have a staff member who listens and say, like, this is really important. I think this is a really big deal, and I want to make sure my boss is prepared on this. And having someone in that staff who say, I'm going to advocate for your issue, that's huge. Because I'll tell you the number of times when we vote on thousands of bills every legislative session, and sometimes I don't know what this issue is. This is like about, let's say, about pork farming, pig farming, and I'm like, I don't know anything about pig farming, but one of my staff has said, like, this is a really important environmental issue, and I've done a lot of research, and I'm telling you, I'm just going to listen to what my staff tells me. Okay. So that's sometimes you don't need to talk to the elected official. Okay. So this is why, again, you will see this again and again. Don't make staff mad. Always be polite to staff. Always be respectful of them. Never belittle them. Never dismiss them. I have had people do that coming to my office. Be respectful of their time. Not everyone, but most elected officials are protective of their staff, of their crew. Okay, I'm especially protective. If I find out that you have come to my office and you've disrespected my staff, like you're dead. You're dead to me. Right? I don't care even if I like your issue, we're gonna have real problems because you disrespected my family. Okay. So before you go meet with the official, All right. I think it's really, really important to answer some basic research questions. And this is a lot of times the overall organization is not going to be able to do this for you, and you need to do your own research and sort of figure something out. So, like an easy first question is: Are they for your issue? Are they a hero? Are they a villain? Or are they just a bystander? Right? Who like you should know who your heroes are. You should know who the villains are before you go in. And so, which side of the issue are they on? Right? Is this even a partisan issue? Is it a Democrat versus Republican kind of issue, or is it a rural versus urban issue? Is it a rich versus poor issue? You need to know those kind of things because it'll affect how you have your conversation with that elected official. Um, just do a quick Google. Has that elected official taken a public position on the thing you want to talk to them about? Have they like written op-eds about it? Have they been quoted in the paper saying something about it? Um, how does their community feel about it? And this is a big thing because, people vote their district. That's one of the first things is people vote the area they're from because they're trying to keep their constituents happy. So, what's their basic biography? Like where do they go to school? How many kids do they have? Are they married? Good things, important things to know, because what you want to find out is, do they have a personal connection to your issue? Do you have a personal connection to them? Do you have anything in common with them? Right? Because over and over again, these meetings are about building relationships. That's the most important thing. You don't have to get them to necessarily agree with you, but if you get them to like you, if you get them to say, hey, I respect you as a person, then maybe their position softens, maybe that they're more likely to support you the next time you ask. Okay. So also understand, what positions do they hold in the government itself? Are they chairs? Are they chairs? Are they on special committees? Are on the committee that affects your bill? Are they any kind of special task force, commissions, et cetera, et cetera? All these are important because if you know that someone is on the committee that's going to hear the bill, then you should probably take a little extra time with them and explain things more carefully. Or if they're an ally, if you know they're already an ally, they say, hey, can we help you with some questions to ask during the committee process, right? But you didn't do this basic research, you wouldn't know this, okay? Okay, I'm gonna skip the last one. All right. I debated whether I should make the slide, but I think just for everyone's sake, here it is. I know this is got a little bit embarrassing, but I shouldn't I shouldn't need to make the slide, but trust me, we've had enough issues where I need to make this slide. Dress is business casual to business only. Please, you don't have to wear a suit. You don't have to wear a suit, but it's welcomed. It's nice if you do want to wear a suit, but just dress neat and clean. Really, a dress shirt and jeans or just slacks is perfectly fine. But please, don't come in sweatpants. Um, if you're going to be outside, be in shorts all day, that's fine. That's understandable. But at the same time, please don't come in a ball gown. And we've had people come like really, really dressed up. It's like, why are you so dressed up? And again, it's not that important, but it distracts from the issue. Okay. Um, personal care, showering and personal care is really important. Especially if you're coming to the Texas Capitol, you're gonna be there all day. You might be outside walking around a lot. I've had to suffer through some very smelly meetings, and I'm trying to be as nice as I can about it. But I will just tell you that I was not listening during those meetings because all I can think about is how bad the room smelled and how bad the person who was talking to me smelled. And I don't mean to, but sometimes you just can't help it. Okay, and that's could be good smells or bad smells. Avoid heavy colognes. Avoid a lot of perfume, please. As someone who has a lot of allergies, if we start the meeting off and all I do is sneeze for the next minute and a half, you're gonna have a bad time, right? So just don't do it. Just if you're gonna have a little perfume or cologne, just very lightly, please. And this is of a special note. If you live with a lot of animals, you may be what we say nose blind to the smell. Okay. And if you're in a group, and I hope that if you have group members who will be willing to tell you, hey, your stuff, your clothing really smells bad. And it smells like animal waste. And a lot of people who have a lot of animals tend to not notice it. If there's someone in your group that's like that, tell them, like, hey, you should probably sit this meeting out, okay? Or you need to change a jacket or something, okay? Prepare for, especially in Texas, prepare for hot outside and freezing inside, or the opposite. If you go to DC, it might be really, really cold outside, but it could be an inferno inside. And I would say dress in anticipation, take a layer off. For ladies, if what's under your jacket is a vest, is a shoulderless vest, that's kind of like, is not a great look. For guys, if you're gonna sweat through your shirts, just be aware that if you take your jacket off, you just need to be aware of it, that you're completely soaked. So also avoid excess trinkets, vulgar displays. I've had people come in with like buttons or t-shirts that just said bad things. And I was like, it's not helpful. If you look like a clown, people will treat you like a clown. Don't be memorable for all the wrong reasons. And that's the whole point of this. Please don't bring in food. We're not a restaurant. This is an office. My staff may be eating. They may have food. But if they're not, if my staff aren't eating and you're bringing in like a hamburger and a pizza, it's kind of distracting for the office, and it's gonna make staff mad, either mad at you or mad at me for not getting them a pizza. So both are bad. And again, dress the way you expect to be treated. If you dress professionally and you dress neatly, and then you're gonna be treated that way. All right. Waiting for the meeting, sitting in the office. Please, again, I'm not gonna hit this point so much, but please be on time. Please be on time. That's it. If you're going to be late, you have to contact staff immediately. I don't care if it's 2 minutes. If you're going to be 2 minutes late in the meeting, tell staff. Like elected officials are known for being late, but we're almost always late because our other meeting ran long or whatever else. There's a lot of reasons. But again, if you're late to your meeting, especially when it's in the busy season, you will get passed up. I mean, we don't have a choice about it. Please wait patiently and quietly. I know that shouldn't need to be said, but we've had problems before. Don't be a nuisance. Bad behavior will get reported. And even if we had a good meeting, and my staff reports, oh, by the way, when they came here, they broke a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, it's not helpful. But what is helpful? Look around the office. This is my pro tip. Okay. Look around the office. That's even as an elected official, when I go to other members' offices and I'm waiting, I look around the office. I look for things, look for awards, look for photos, look for trinkets they bring from the district. How they decorate tells you a lot about what that office stands for. So, and what's important to them. So like, I used to be neighbors with an office that had a lot of hunting trophies, like a lot of hunting trophies. Guess what's really important to them? They really like hunting, right? And so, the point of doing that is for you to try to find something that you can find in common with that elected official. Compliment them on their awards. So you say, oh, I did not know that you won the Texas Protection, that you won this award for protecting children. That's really amazing. That's really admirable. Congratulations, right? Even if it's an award from like 10 years ago, it's like, hey, that's really incredible, right? Or they have a picture with they got a picture with Obama. It's like, oh, I saw that picture of you and Obama. What was that? Right? Something that engage, say, hey, I'm paying attention to you. I'm engaging with you. Okay. Um, be respectful of staff. This is from my staff. Engage them only if they don't seem busy. Most of my staff, like all the time, they're working on something. Or if they're not working on something, they're taking a break. So unless they engage with you first, or they just don't look like they're busy at all, like please just leave them alone. Avoid larger food requests unless specifically offered. And even still, even especially if you have a larger group, even if you are offered food, drink, coffee, turn it down, right? This is like there's a cultural thing with Chinese. I'll tell you an example. We had a meeting with a Chinese delegation, and and my staff just naturally says, "Oh, can I get you water, coffee, or anything?" And I think their perception is, well, it would be impolite for us to refuse it. So everyone said, we would like, oh, sure, we'll take coffee. And my staff spent the next 20 minutes making coffee. And the annoying thing was most of the people that got a coffee didn't even drink it, because they just felt like it was impolite to refuse it. Just trust me when I say you're going to be offered food and drink, as a nicety, but please just turn it down unless you just really need it. If you just need some water, if you absolutely need some coffee, that's fine. But generally, even with offered, turn down food because again, staff has to take the time to do it and do all this stuff. And this is from my staff, and probably from a lot of other staff. Do not record or film staff. If you're going to take pictures in the office, make sure the staff are out of shot. And if you want them in the picture, ask. Don't take their picture without asking. Okay. Just general respect. Okay. All right. I need to speed this up because it's taking longer than I thought. Okay. Starting the meeting, just basic introductions. Make sure everyone is clear about who they are and what and who they and what they're representing. This is a nice little trick that I picked up along the way watching other elected officials. As you go around the room, as each person introduces themselves, hand over their business card at that time, right? So what I do when I have people sitting in front of me on my table, I will place the cards where they're sitting in relative position, so that like when I forget somebody's name, I'll just look at the card and see that's where they're sitting. Okay, that's Jessica. Okay, make everyone's life easier. Or trust me, it'll make people happier. Starting the meeting, don't do too much like trying to preface the issue. Provide a clear explanation and overview of the issue immediately, right? Just state, we're here to talk about alien land laws. And here are our concerns. And then here are some personal experiences. And then provide materials, right? Please don't bring a doctoral thesis. And I've had people do this in meetings with me. They'll give me a stack, like a 1-inch stack of paper. And I'm just telling you, no one's reading that. I just don't have time to read it. My staff doesn't have time to read it. And it's just too overwhelming. If you're going to bring stuff, it should be concise. Okay. Pro tip, please use maps and graphics as much as possible. And again, during the legislative session, during all this time, staff and members are just trying to absorb so much information. Having graphics, having maps, and just visual information makes it so much easier. And some of the best lobbyists, the absolute best lobbyists, will make dedicated member-specific information sheets. So, like, let's say if we're talking about alien land laws, we would have a district map of a member that we would talk to and saying, your district has, 75 employers who are China-based, and they employ, 10,000 people, whatever it is. And that is important. That's a really important information for that member to know before they make a decision. Okay. All right. During the meeting, you can mix it up, start at the beginning, put it in the middle. A little small talk helps, right? And this is why you're looking around the office, and this is why you did research on this member beforehand. Are they a sports fan? Are they a movie buff? Do they do like outdoor activities? What do they like to do? Do you have anything that you have in common? Talk about something you saw in their office. Um, and like I love art. And I know a lot of the good artists around Texas, and so like when I'm going to members' offices, hey, I know that artist. I've seen that decoration before, that painting before. You know, people are proud of their stuff. Ask them about it. Have them talk about it. If they're in a good mood, they're more likely to be receptive to what you're saying. Okay. Again, keep repeating clearly why your group is there and what your objectives are. The conventional wisdom is you have to say things 3 times before people actually hear it. Okay. So this is a good one. This is partly for my staff. Take good notes. If you're coming in a group, there should be a single person who is assigned the task of being secretary. Have them take notes. They shouldn't really be talking. They should be listening and writing down. Write down exactly what was discussed. There's been times when we've had meetings, and then afterwards, they said that I said this, and I said, no, I didn't say that. If somebody was taking notes, that would be more clear. Okay. Here's another really big reason to why you should take really good notes. A lot of staff and officials, even if they can't support you, they say, that's not something I can vote for. But they might give you a lot of hints along the way. And I do this all the time. It's like, hey, look, who you should talk to is this person. Right? It's like, what you should do? You need to fix your bill this way. Those are good suggestions. Basically, I'm telling you that even that I don't support your thing right now, but if you make these changes, I might support it. That's really good information. And you should definitely pass that on to your organization. Look for nonverbal communications. Make sure you note those. Talk about their district. This is my staff added this. Talk about how their district specifically will be affected. This is a huge thing because, again, elected officials want to get reelected, and what affects their district is the most important. Okay. Yeah, and we talked about some of this stuff already. Frame the issue in the way that they will understand, right? Talk about it in the context of their home. All right, building a good discussion. Okay, so your meeting's already been going on. You've already explained the problem. You've provided good individual examples. You've told them what their constituents talk about with personal anecdotes, and you've explained to them what you want, right? You explain the situation, you explain the solution. Now, a lot of times I've been in meetings where people did the first 4 things and they said, okay, we're done. Wait, what? Like, let's talk about this. This is important. Like, if I'm okay, and so you should ask questions like, does this make sense? What do you think? What do you think should be next? Right? Do you think this bill has a chance of passing? What do you think we ought to do? Look at the verbal and nonverbal cues from the elected officials. Are they interested? If basically it's like I'm staring, I'm like looking at my watch every like 10 seconds, cut it out, right? They don't want to be there, and you're not going to accomplish much more. But if they're like listening intently and go, oh my God, that's terrible. What? Engage them further. Keep engaging them. Ask them about it, right? Ask them more. It's like, I know you see it was terrible. You understand? Like I mean, for our community, this is atrocious. This is horrific. Okay, keep engaging. Keep building that answer, but be aware of the time. If you're running close to the end of your meeting time, say, "Oh, hey, I'm sorry, we're almost out of time." And let them. But like I've said, no, I have more time. Could we keep talking about this? Right? Let them extend it. Okay. And here it is. At the end, you're doing all this, you have to have an ask. And I can now tell you the number of times when I've met with groups, had great meetings, learned a lot, but they didn't ask me to do anything. They didn't ask, right? So kind of like gauge them where they are, figure out if they're supportive or not. See, you can figure it out if they're with you or not, or they're kind of in the middle. Okay. And so I've really said, like, frame the ask in the right way. And so I've put on probably like a spectrum of kind of like asks. Like the top one is somebody who's already like your champion. They're your hero. Like, we know you will continue to lead a cause. Thank you. And that's not really an ask in a direct sense, but it's saying, hey, what you're really asking is, we're asking that you continue to be our hero. Please continue to be our hero. Can you do that? Right? That's the ask. Right? On the very bottom, that's someone who is already saying, nope, I don't support this. This is, I'm going to vote against it. And you can say, look, I know you don't support this, right? But could we keep talking about this? And I've had a lot of good lobbyists, a professional lobbyists, basically say this. It's like, look, we just want a few moments of your time, tell you what it is. We know you don't support it, but could we keep talking, right? All right, right in the middle. And so I'm not going to go with all of these, but make sure that when you finish the meeting, that somebody makes the final ask. And so for like SB 147, a lot of the members, when we called Senate offices, the ask was, can we ask for your commitment to vote against this bill? Right? You don't know until you ask. And some people will say yes, some people will say no. You have to ask. Okay. And once you ask, right, somebody says, I commit to voting no on this. I commit to voting against this bill. Hold them to it, right? Tweet, put it out on social media saying, we appreciate this. Thank you. All right. But one of the things is control your reaction no matter what. I've had people, when I said, like, look, I'm sorry, I can't support this. And they get really upset and they start arguing with me. That's not going to help you. Like, if I already just said no and I give you my reason why, but you want to basically yell at me, we're done. I'm definitely not changing my mind on this now. Okay. So be professional at all times. All right. Finishing out the meeting. Again, don't leave without making the ask. In my personal meetings with especially elected officials, and I've seen other people use the same thing, is if you've just had a really serious conversation, try to leave on something a little bit lighthearted. Tell some jokes. And like, hey, next time you're in Dallas, come out. We'll take you out for dim sum, right? Something lighthearted, just to say, like, hey, we're all still friends. If the topic is complicated, this is from my staff, or the official is wanting to discuss it further. You run out of time, but they're wanting to discuss it further. Don't be afraid to ask for the next meeting immediately. This is not like, this is not dating. You don't have to wait 3 days or whatever it is, right? Ask immediately. The moment, say, hey, I'm sorry, we got to go. Could we schedule the next meeting time? Who do I talk to in your office to schedule the next meeting? Right? Be aggressive in that. Don't shy away from it. Gifts and trinkets. I put this on here because it's been a problem before. Okay. Please keep it simple. We have a lot of, especially in in Congress, have very strict rules on what kind of gifts can be taken. Generally, anything as a personal item is forbidden. Like, so, the things that only I would use and use in my personal capacity are generally frowned upon. Cups and T-shirts generally are fine. I mean, I don't even take those anyways. But mass-produced crap, I think, is always like, what? Like, I don't want this. So, we have like a giant bucket of pens with the organization's name on it. Great. I'll take it and it's going to get chunked in the bucket. And then, when the seniors want like little stuff that we can give away, we'll just give them the whole bucket of pens. It's just like I almost say you wasted your money doing it. Now, I will tell you that no matter what organization you are, the things that will always get you remembered are things that are unique. Especially items made by kids. And I've had organizations just Their gift to me was a tiny little painting drawn by a kid. I promise you that's on my shelf somewhere. That's in my office somewhere on a shelf. And um, you know, so plan for it. The big no-nos, the stuff that will get people arrested. Please, no gifts. I've had people try to give me gift cards. I will not take a gift card from anyone. Okay. Um, uh, and in Texas, anything like over $50, unless you're a personal friend. But just use your common sense. And also, by the way, I'll tell you this, especially like people are always proud of their gifts and stuff. I have a rule in my office that my staff has first dibs on all office gifts. I don't care what it is, whether it's expensive or cheap. Staff has first dibs. I don't even see probably like 80% of the stuff that comes in that people will drop off because my staff has already claimed it. Okay, so before you spend like thousands of dollars getting little gifts and stuff, think carefully about it. Okay. Some other tips. Make sure staff has the contact of everyone in the group. Okay. Sometimes we want to follow up with a specific person because they had a specific question. We want everyone's contact, right? Make sure you don't leave the office without knowing who the staff member is that's working on this issue. Even if they're not they weren't in the meeting, especially if they weren't in the meeting, you need to know who they are. You need their full contact information. Okay. Do not leave the office without it. Make sure you write down the action items that they suggested. If an elected official or their staff says, look, we think there's a committee substitute coming from this bill. Can you better find out what it is. If they had questions about it, you better have those questions answered. Okay. And a lot of times there's questions raised during the meeting, and you need to know, are you doing the research? Are they doing the research? Or are they going to ask another agency when's the answer due? Okay, those are important questions again, because if we're going to be professionals, we're gonna act like professionals. And this is my pro tip: get a picture with the official. Why do you spend all this time talking and you don't get a picture? Even if they're in opposition to you, get a picture with them, right? Get a picture with them. Send the picture to their staff. Ask if you can post on social media. Hey, look, we had a great meeting with Senator so and so. They couldn't agree with us to do this, but we're going to keep talking. It makes them look good. It makes them like, look, they're reasonable people, and they met with people that disagreed with them, and they were nice about it, right? And those kind of things help build relationships. Okay. Listen very carefully, and this is why you take good notes. Listen carefully to the criticisms of your position and the objections. Connect with your organization. Tell them that this elected official or their staff had these issues. Can we work around it? Okay. All right. Just some basically do's and don'ts. After the meeting, don't expect staff to be your intermediate with the other offices. Don't ask. We've had this happen a number of times. Don't ask us, could you set up a meeting for us with someone, Chairman so and so? Like, no, go call them yourself. We don't have time for that. Don't be your staff. Don't ask for your staff to be your advocates. If they can and they want to, and they know their own office's policy, let them make that choice themselves, right? Some offices will fire staff if they think that the staff is going rogue and just advocating for stuff for themselves. Okay. Do not assume that a good meeting means that someone's on your side, right? People are just polite professionally. Do follow up with staff on questions and objections. We talked about it earlier. Do share social media posts with staff. If you're going to send something out about their boss, don't let them find out on their own. Send it to them. Say, hey, we talked about our meeting. Could you retweet it? Okay. Okay. All right. Go into meetings with an open mind. Don't assume that people. This is from my staff. Don't assume that people who agree with you, who are just agreeable or understand, just because they're smiling and nodding at you. Right. Don't assume people understand just because they're just nodding your head. listen, really listen more than you talk. Especially staff drop hints all the time about what you should do. Listen carefully. Make sure everyone in the group has a role. This is about building relationships, and ask legislators for their honest opinion. Right? If they say that I can't support the bill, can you say, you know, everything aside, could you? I mean, could you just help us understand? Could you give us your honest opinion? Right? All right. Committee testimony. Do you guys want to keep going? All right.
That's fine.
Okay.
We're
So committee
recording or
testimony,
share the
I'll try to be a
video.
little faster with this. I knew this was going to run long. A lot of the same stuff. Okay. So the difference between on office meeting and then the committee testimony is now you know a bill has been filed, right? A bill has been filed. It is now before the committee. This is the only time in the Texas legislature where public testimony will be allowed, right? And especially because of the first bullet point, um, the public testimony is a part of the official record, and it will be used in lawsuits. Establishing a clear record is very important. So there's a lot of issues, especially on voting bills, on voting rights bills, where it was important that witnesses stated that this specific community will be affected by this portion of the bill, right? Basically, so the courts will say, well, you were warned about it and you chose to not act, right? And so those kind of like records are important to have. A good testimony can make or break a bill. I've seen it numerous times that so a good witness testifies against the bill and the bill's dead, right? Because the witness was there, they presented well, they made a good argument, and everyone goes, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Follow the same guidelines for personal appearance and hygiene. You don't need to wear a suit, but it's nice if you do. Just be clean and neat. Testimony is under oath. That means it's sworn. There will be legal consequences, especially in Congress. But it's not enforced so much in Texas. But like if you're lying about stuff, especially about like name and date of birth and where you live and so, those kind of stuff on your affidavit, people will come prosecute you. You can use committee testimony as you can chop up the committee testimony that you download on the web, and you can use it, as additional PR. Testimony doesn't have to be in person. We can be in writing. And don't forget, even though there's only in Texas, the committees are always, committees are between like somewhere like 7 and 11 people, except for appropriations. But staff is watching. Staff all over the Capitol are watching online, right? So even if you think there's nobody's really in the room, staff is watching, right? All right. Submitting written testimony. And, I'm going to skip this part. This is pretty straightforward. And most of it is just, just don't write too much, basically. And there's a specific procedure to how to do it. All right. In-person testimony. Right? So you're willing to take the long trip to Capitol. This is one of the things that we discovered, that we found out, basically people learned the hard way on SB 147 is the Senate only has a 24-hour notice requirement. That means by law, they only have to let the public know 24 hours in advance before a bill's heard. And now most of the times they post it over a lot longer than that, but they can do that. They can give short notice, and it's on purpose, right? So when alien land law SB 147 was up, it was like a 30-hour notice, right? And so the reason we talk about that is even with 5 days in Texas House, it's hard to plan for a big trip with a big group in 5 days. So what that means is you have to plan for it in advance, okay? Organize with your group, plan for travel, lodging, food, event spaces, communications during the day, figuring out who's going to testify, all these things. Figure it out in advance. So, like, again, if there's people here who are going to work on alien land law that's going to come back, plan for all this stuff in advance. They're going to file the bill, and it's likely the bill is going to get heard. Plan for it. Okay. This is a big one, and again, anybody who dealt with SB 147 came out to testify against SB 147 dealt with this, had the issues with this. Witness registration is a real problem. It's not so much in the House, but I know the Senate kind of like the Senate uses it like as a weapon. So any witness that wants to be recognized on the bill or recognized to testify must register. Okay, and the registration again is a sworn oath. So one of the things that's important is you can register and not testify. So there's at the end of the bill, usually the chair will read out the people who have registered against or for a bill but did not want to testify. You can do that. And the reason why that's important is because there's a lot of analysts who look and make recommendations about whether someone should vote for this bill or not. And especially like staff analysts, and they will go and look at who is for this bill, who's against it, and they'll figure out on the balance of things, the right group of people, the right people are for this, the wrong people, so on and so forth. So even if you show up, if you took the trouble of going to Austin, but you don't want to testify, you don't want to say anything, you're kind of embarrassed, you're a little shy, you can still register for a bill or against the bill, but just say, I don't want to testify. Okay. Don't forget the registration doesn't open until the morning of the hearing. There's no such thing as pre-registration. And remember, this is what happened with what SB 147 is. It happened with a lot of bills in the Senate. Committee chairs can close registration even while people are on the tablet trying to register. Okay, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's their absolute right. So what do? You get there in line first. You register all your people as quickly as possible. That's it. There's no other solution to it. For like the anti-trans bill that was heard last session, there were like 900 people coming out to testify, and they shut it off as soon as like after the first 300 people registered. So can they legally do that? Yes. Is that bad practice? Is that poor ethics? Yeah, pretty much, but there's nothing you can do about it. Okay. Make sure that everything's entered correctly. Don't forget that this is a sworn affidavit. If you falsify stuff, and people have done it in the past, Texas Rangers, not the baseball team, the guys with guns, the actual Texas Rangers or DPS will actually go and investigate. Okay. All right. So basic checklist. When you do voter registration, the witness registration, and the overall organization really should help get all the stuff correct. Make sure you know what the bill number is. Don't register for a different bill. All right. Make sure you know exactly where the hearing room is. What's the hearing start time? And there's some, they can't start earlier than the start time, but they can start a lot after. So there's times when a committee hearing and a bill is supposed to be heard, let's say at 8 a.m., but they don't get to it. They don't even start until after session, which is 8 p.m., right? You have to be prepared for that. Okay. And they're going to ask you positions on the bill. Are you for the bill, against the bill, or just neutral, which is on? Your witness contact information, again, don't lie about this stuff. It's bad. And who you're representing. If you're not representing anyone, just say self. Okay. And again, this is all for Texas, so it's very similar everywhere else. So testifying as a witness, and you really, if you haven't, you really should watch the testimony from SB 147, and there's some great examples of people who did it really, really well. Okay. First of all, don't panic. This is not a court setting where people are going to challenge you in everything you say. Just be considerate. Watch the time limit. If the chair sets a time limit, usually on controversial bills, if it's a committee that has like a lot of bills like criminal procedure or like criminal justice, health and human services, the education committee, they have tons of bills. Everyone's got 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it's done. Okay. Organizers really should, and we did this for SB 147. Organizers should prepare like a little one-pager for everyone who's going to testify, right? Don't read from the one-pager, but know that these are the key points to hit. If you can hit one of those points, fantastic. If you have like 30 witnesses, everyone, like 10 people hits one point, 10 people hits another, and so on, fantastic. You don't need to hit everything, but make sure you hit something, okay? If organizers have an expert or a special witness, let the staff know, and they'll go and ask if that person can have extra time. Again, this is why you're nice to staff, is because you may be asking them for some favors. Okay. Committee members are likely to assist, like, so, if you're coming and you're testifying in front of my committee and you're just having a bad time, I'm going to help you out. And most members will too. They'll find ways to help you out. Even if they're not on your side, they're going to try to help you out. Okay. I don't want to read through all these, but I'll do a couple of select ones. When you're testifying, please, we've had some people can't help it, and if you can't help it, that's fine. But try not to read from your notes. Just talk, right? You know your stuff. Please don't repeat, and this is the huge one. There's a lot of times when we have hundreds of witnesses come on a bill, and everyone says the exact same thing. And after a while, what happens? Members stop listening, right? There's no point to it. And they don't care, or they're actually going to walk away, they'll go have dinner or whatever else. Okay. Right in the middle, it's not necessary to talk about every possible issue with the bill. If you are testifying, really talk to your group and say, I'm going to talk about this aspect. Another person said, well, I want to talk about this aspect. You don't need every single person trying to speed run and talk about every possible issue with this legislation. Okay. Please don't fake an answer. Please don't say, just make up an answer. It's not only acceptable, but it's preferred that you say, you know what? I really don't know the answer to that. Let me research that and we'll get back to you. Because that's a great opportunity for you to go meet to the office. Hey, we have this information, this follow-up. Can we have a meeting with your boss? And they'll say, well, yeah, my boss asked about it. Sure, why not? Okay. One thing, especially for our Asian community, and I see this happen all the time. Don't apologize about your accent. Please don't do that. Right? Do not be embarrassed about your accent. And people say, "Oh, my English is not too good." It's like, your English is just fine. Okay? Don't be embarrassed. Don't apologize for it. Okay? Because no one else apologizes. No one else apologizes for their accent. You should not either. Okay? Here's one from my staff. Do practice your testimony. If you're going to testify, practice it with other people. Make sure it's within about 3 minutes. Okay. Please do include personal stories and your biography. Make yourself more human. Okay. Now I'm going to skip some of this. All right. After you testify, you can leave, and this is Texas. You can leave. But the important parts are there any follow-up questions? Did anybody ask you anything that you need to clarify? Do you need to go over there and say, like, oh, I thought more about your question. I want to give you a better answer, right? If the meeting is over, if the hearing's over, this is I'm not sure you can do this in Congress, but I know in Texas, if the members start walking into the audience and say, hey, can we have a photo? Can we take a selfie? Can we post this? Can we talk about it? This is my first time testifying, and thanks for your assist. Okay. Make sure to report back to your organizers about how it went, who was supportive, who was not supportive, what kind of questions did they ask about. All these things, intelligence gathering is very important. Okay. I'm going to run through these quick. External communications. Organizations should encourage their members to interact with elected officials all the time, not just when there's an issue. Make it a habit and build relationships. This includes phone calls, emails, letters, social media, public events. How often should you do all these things? Use your best judgment, but engage consistently. But don't be annoying. Don't be obnoxious about it. Be extra careful on social media, right? Because it's social media. All right. Like so, like during like okay, so before session, this is like when nothing's going on and this is very chill. There's no bill been filed, but it may be filed in the future. Light interactions with the officials, limited number of people. It's really just the organization and some dedicated people. Just light correspondence in social media, inviting officials out. And you guys can read through this. I'm not going to read through this. Invite officials to come talk to the group about anything else. Invite them to dinner or lunch, right? Build relationships. Encourage your members who are in that officials community. Volunteer on their campaign. Donate to them. Attend their town halls. Let them make sure that they see you all the time, so that when that same constituent comes back and says, "Hey, oh, by the way, I'm going to join a meet. Our group has a meeting with you." You think that official's going to skip that meeting? No, they're going to be there because like this is a person they've seen all the time. Okay. During the session, now this is totally different, and and Dr. Pei, we have lots of conversations and debates about, okay, is it time to call everybody yet? Okay, so this is now time to get everyone to email and send letters and call, right? Contact should be more directed and issue focused. Don't just say, hey, I'm just coming by to say hi. It's like, no, I'm contacting you because we want you to help stop this bill. We're contacting you because we want you to support this bill. Or I'm a voter, I'm a constituent. I don't like y'all's stated position, the official's position on this issue, and I'm upset. Okay. Social media, direct engagement with official counts, be nice. Most officials, and the reason you need to be nice is most officials don't manage their own social media account, except for me. Most officials don't do this stuff. They may have one or two posts, but they don't handle day-to-day stuff. If you make staff cry, you're going to have a bad time. And if staff gets upset dealing with social media, and they're going to report it to the boss, and that's going to be bad no matter what. Okay. Organizations should coordinate members to talk about to amplify messages, especially on social media, right? There's other stuff you can do during that time, and this is more for the organization. Shop news stories to journalists. Coordinate a legislative response, like have a press conference, do a protest, do a march, have your own town halls. I mean, if you were talking about alien land laws, have an alien land law town hall in your community and invite the officials, even if they don't disagree. Say, hey, would you present your side? Okay. So, this is so people have asked me all the time in the past, like, what should I do? Should I email? Should I write? Should I call? I said, do all of it. Do any of it. Do all of it. Do as much as you want. Do as little as you want. But here is my ranking of the best type of contact. And this is, again, my personal information, my personal opinion, and to the worst kind of the least useful type of contact, right? Most useful is an in-person formal meeting with constituents in it, right? Whatever that's a lot of times that's when I make a decision on an issue. I make a decision, okay, I will support this, or no, I won't support this. Handwritten letter or note from constituents, typed letter from constituents. Again, the point of it is that if somebody took the time to handwrite me a letter, I promise you, if you handwrite me a letter, I will handwrite a letter back. Type letter from constituents. It's about the same as a personal email from constituents, and also social media contact. You guys see this, the common trend here? Constituents are most important. A phone call from constituents. And after that, we start going to the meetings with non-constituents. Like, I'll have the meetings, but like how much I care, it's like, I care a lot less because you don't vote for me. Email letter from non-constituents. phone call for non-constituents. You can see the clear pattern here. Okay, here are the things to absolutely avoid. Please, please, and this is especially for organizations, don't email bomb. That means that you have every single member in all 50 states just send email after email. Not only is it not helpful, you're going to end up making people upset and you're going to piss people off. And it's hard to make friends when they're pissed at you. And especially don't encourage people from outside the state, outside Texas or outside the United States to contact. I mean, I've been contacted by people in other states about bills. I'm like, why do I even care? Why do I care at all? What you think about this bill that doesn't affect you in any way, and you can't vote for any of it. So, yeah, it's just not helpful, and it's annoying more than anything else. Do not make threats. I don't think this needs to be said, but this happens all the time. People make threats, either serious threats or light threats. People use racist language or bigoted language, or they're just assholes to my staff. They're just sending mean stuff to my staff. All those things under the never, if you do it, it's game over. It's just done. We're done. All right. We're not talking to you again. Again, should you write, email, or call? Do all of it. And during the SB 147 stuff, we told people, I don't care. You call in the morning, you email in the afternoon, and then you write a letter at night. Do it all. Right? There's no law that says you're limited to one. Do all of them. Do it as much as you can. And so the question came up in a lot of the SB 147 is like, are we overdoing it? Are we annoying the crap out of people and they're just gonna, vote against us just because we're annoyed? Use your judgment, right? You as a normal human being can figure out if you're being annoying, right? But I think as long as the contacts, as long as the communications are on message, they're respectful, they're not intentionally aggravating, and it's consistent communications, there's nothing wrong with it. Just keep going, right? It isn't, if I get multiple letters from a constituent that keeps talking about the same issue, and it's very nice and very polite, great, fantastic. I know they're engaged. Okay. And again, this is another one that I shouldn't have to write, but it happens so often that if you're an advocate, don't get into a beef, don't get into a fight with officials on social media. It's just not helpful in any sense of the word. Criticisms are appropriate, but they should be measured and honest, right? Don't accuse them of stuff they didn't do. It's just not helpful. Do not involve family members. I mean, I shouldn't have to say this, but holy crap. Don't involve family members, especially their kids. Don't talk about their kids. Don't on social media, don't be mad at them for one thing and then go find their posts about their kids. Like people have done to me a number of times and talk about them because I don't care that you're a real serious person. You went onto a post about my kids and said nasty things about them. I'm never talking to you. Okay. Even if you disagree, I think this is huge, and the good advocates do this really well. Even if you disagree with an elected official on a certain issue, but there's something that you guys have in common. Like, let's say you guys both love Houston football in Houston. You love the Texans. Engage on that. Be nice and be sweet. Have them bond with something, because sometimes maybe it'll soften them up. Okay. Special note to organizers, again, it's your job to direct the group's communications. You should be telling your members which officials should be contacted, when to contact, and what the message should be. Good coordination will focus pressure on the right people and at the right time. And this, we did this a lot on SB 147. Right person at the right time. Okay. Again, look in part 1 for the details. If you are unsure, you can contact an office that is supportive of your side. Ask them to help you understand the timing and the process. Staff love to help. And a lot of the members like myself, we love to help you. Just ask, okay? If you're not sure, ask about the right messaging to use. And if you have the resources, please hire a professional PR firm, right, to talk about messaging, to talk about creating collateral like graphics, displays, and all this stuff. They're very small things, but they add up to a lot. Okay, I think that's it. Sorry, that
Questions from anybody?